In my opinion, the worst scene of 2020 is from a movie I enjoyed. The scene involves my celebrity crush going on a date with a cute boy, and then the cute boy stops and plays Wow by Zara Larsson on his phone. They began dancing, and all of a sudden start making out. The cameras are zooming into their faces making out. I'm getting really, really sad as Woes by Kanye West and Betty by Taylor Swift is playing in my head. And it's making me more sad because that should have been me. So thank you, Work It, for making me more depressed in 2020. Before I get to honorable mentions, here are some films and things involving films that disappointed me in 2020. So here's Celeste while the unofficial theme song of 2020 is playing.
Remember the times we had, the times that you and me had.
So here are the 7 honorable mentions, or in this case, dishonorable mentions, because I am Watch Mojo. Number 17, Ava. Jessica Chastain's performance couldn't save this mediocre film, and there wasn't really a plot to this film. Nothing felt focused. It was boring. Number 16, The Last Thing He Wanted. Anne Hathaway and Willem Dafoe had decent performances, but the way this film was written and edited made this film more complicated than it needs to. Also, this film contains the most graphic dog death I've seen. It was disgusting and unnecessary. Number 15, The Wrong Missy. This film was unfunny and predictable, and the performances were very annoying. However, at least it got slightly better in the third act. Number 14, Money Plane. If you need to watch at least one bad film of 2020, this is the film. It's Sharknado's levels of bad, and I recommend watching this film with a group of friends. This film also contains my favorite screenshot of 2020, and it perfectly describes the film. Number 13, Fantasy Island. The film has a lot of subplots. Things begin to not make sense in the middle of the second act, but at least it has an interesting concept. Number 12, Chick Fight. This was supposed to be a female empowerment film, but what I saw was a sexist ripoff of Fight Club starring women. Number 11, The Last Days of American Crime. This film had no reason to be over 2.5 hours long. Even though the concept was interesting, the concept made no sense, and I stopped caring about this film around the 40-minute mark. Number 10, The Kissing Booth 2. This film would have been on honorable mentions if this film wasn't over 2 hours long. The film started off original. It wasn't funny, but at least it was better than the first film. And then the plot slowly turned into the same third act of the first film. At number 9, The Binge. This film isn't a Superbad knockoff. This is a Booksmart knockoff with elements of The Purge. I say that because 2 of the main actors were in Booksmart. The film wasn't funny, and it seems like the filmmakers created a plot at the very last second. And it seems like things made no sense. Like, there was a random musical number halfway through the film. Even though it felt grand and it was great, it didn't fit the tone of the film. It was very unnecessary. At number 8, Desperados. I didn't see this film when it came out, but this film was on almost every worst of 2020 film list, and I didn't think it was going to be terrible, and it was terrible. It has the same plot as The Wrong Missy. However, there's numerous scenes that's full of cringe and unnecessary subplots. Nassim Pedrad was funny in SNL, but she was very annoying in this film, and I'm beginning to think that she was only funny on SNL because of John Mulaney. So yeah, pass on this film. At number 7, Hard Kill. One of the professors from my university helped write the script, and if I have him as a professor anytime in the next 3 semesters, I'm dropping out of college. How do you make a boring action film starring Bruce Willis? All the film had to do is not have a complicated setup, make the dialogue flow quickly, have a lot of action, and not have like 10-minute scenes of characters planning their attack. That's boring. At number 6, The Turning. The performances was just terrible. It was boring, and the film easily has the worst ending I've seen in a long time. Just watch The Haunting of Bly Manor on Netflix. It's basically the same thing, except the Bly Manor is perfectly splendid, while The Turning is perfectly dreadful. At number 5, we have Books of Blood. This is my most controversial take because it has a mixed response, and I don't like this film. The film is an anthology movie, and it has 3 stories, and all 3 stories were terrible. I didn't think the film was scary, and I was more angry and frustrated with the character development and how the story was playing off. The first story was way too long. I almost fell asleep. The audio mixing the first story was pretty terrible, and it was just terrible because of a cheap jump scare later on in the story. By the way, the jump scare almost woke up my parents in the other room. The second story was passable. It was still terrible, but at least it had a plot. The third story wasn't even a story. It was just to connect the 2 stories. There's no story. This film is terrible, and everyone involved in this film should be disappointed. Number 4, After We Collided. This is the second film in the After franchise, and this film is so bad it makes me want to appreciate the Kissing Booth franchise. The first film was basically the Kidz Bop version of 50 Shades Grey, and this film is the exact same film as the first film, except Dylan Sprouse is in this film, and the Kidz Bop kids just discovered the F word, so now they're saying that word very frequently. The relationships between the two main characters isn't healthy, and I was both disturbed and bored. Before we move on, this film was supposed to take place a month after the first film, but it feels like it takes place 3 years into the future. Next. At number 3, we have Artemis Fowl. Easily Disney's worst film in a long time. Probably Disney's worst film of all time. Things were happening, but it feels like nothing was happening. It seems like the filmmakers didn't read the original Artemis Fowl books, or Disney forced the writers to not read the books and make their own story. At number 2, we have Songbird. Everyone told Michael Bay that it is a terrible idea to make a COVID film in the middle of a COVID pandemic, and he still did it. Everyone expected this film was going to be terrible, and it is terrible. If you want to hear my thoughts about this film, just watch my review on the December 2020 video, because I'm done talking about this film. Let's just get it over with. Number 1. And the worst movie of 2020, Bobbleheads the movie. I don't want to talk about this film anymore. I already talked about this film like twice. I'm done with this film. Happy 2021, everyone. Bye, everyone.